Hello and welcome to predictocast, the podcast where we predict a movie's storyline after watching only the first 10 minutes and knowing nothing else about it. I'm Josh, and with me as always is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, Josh. Hey, everybody.
We are wrapping up our coverage of our 100th film today, Distant Cousins from 1993. We wanted to tie it all the way back to the very beginning of the podcast where we covered Cousins. You know all about this if you've listened to part one in the mini episode, which I hope you did because they were fun. And we're going to talk about the rest of the movie right now. And it's a tumultuous time in our country, and I really just needed a dumb early 90s thriller like this. It hit me right in the sweet spot.
It's a really dumb movie.
It's so stupid.
And here's what I love about early 90s thrillers is that they're so low, not stakes, because there's lives at stake here, but like just the scale of them. It's just a house.
It's so small. Like what they're trying to do is so minuscule, and they go so far to get what they want.
And like a lot happens in this movie, but also like it's all in the pursuit of one thing. So it's like I don't have a lot. In fact, I have one note, Josh.
Oh, I took lots of notes.
Well, I'm glad you did, because you can kind of steer the conversation like you always do. So it won't change the whole scope of what our podcast is. But I have one note, and it's all in caps and has 3 question marks after it. 3 words. That sentence is 2 NES zappers.
Of course, that would be the thing that you noticed.
You can't use 2.
Well, anytime we get a video game in a movie, I'm always listening for the sound effects. And this was, of course, the generic bleep bloops of some random fake game that they put in.
Also fantastic. 1993. Like, at this point, we're almost a generation, like we're at the tail end of the Super Nintendo. Like they could have had 2 Super Scope 16s. They could have had Super Scope 32.
Oh, that would have been amazing to see
2 bazookas.
To see Harry and Antifa Alex using scopes.
My friend bought a Super Scope 16 for their Super Nintendo. Brought it home, played a whole weekend of the packing game that came with it. And then he took it back home, back to the store on Monday, got a full refund. We had exactly the amount of enjoyment out of it. No money spent.
I never used, I used the Zapper for Duck Hunt, obviously. Did it work with any other games?
It did at the very early launch. There were some shooting gallery games, like literally like the little cowboys would pop up and stuff. But not a whole lot. But since it came with Duck Hunt, that's kind of all you never if you had the gun, you had Duck Hunt.
Yes.
And I never was like, man, I wish I had another game that uses this thing. I have the game that works with it. I have Duck Hunt.
They could have figured out a fun way to create a co-op mode in Mario Brothers where you could player 1 could play as Mario running through the level, and then player 2 could just shoot enemies and shoot coins so that Mario could kind of speed run through.
That'd be great. You just running through, and then the whole screen would go black with that one white dot where you shoot, which is what happens when you do it.
It'd be very hard to play, but it would still be cool.
It would be very cool. But, these guys are having a great time with their 2 orange NES zappers in 1993.
I mean, yeah, Alex, obviously he's on the cutting edge of rock music, but maybe not on the cutting edge of video game systems.
Oh man, who doesn't like Metallica, right?
No, there's no Metallica in this movie.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh man.
Okay, so let's talk about this movie and kind of where it goes. We kind of nailed it in our predictions, which is fun going back to the very beginning and thinking about how we started the show and not really knowing what we were going to predict and making funny joke predictions about, I think in Cousins, we predicted somebody was going to go to the future or something, and it was just a bunch of dumb shit. And then over time, we've kind of gotten better at figuring out these movies, and we sort of nailed this one right away.
Right away. I mean, this was a clear take over your life movie. We did. Hey, I don't think we predicted it, But we were hoping, this is HopoCast, that we would see a skeleton from the guy they stole the
We kind
camper
of did,
from.
almost.
Almost. I mean, inside he is a skeleton.
We all are. So if that's our metric, then we saw a bunch of skeletons on screen in this movie.
This movie was full of distant skeletons. But this guy was dead, so he's closer to being a real skeleton at this point.
That is true. No seduction, though, which I was very surprised by.
I was too. I thought, like, basically, Richard and Catherine June. Can't just say Kathy or
Catherine June?
Catherine June.
We did call it, though. He has a fake fucking accent.
Yes, he does. I love that. They are not people who are thinking about the sex.
Well, we have there's like that early sex scene where Richard is trying to get Catherine to have sex and she is not really into it. And then they kind of do it anyway. And it's cross-cut with Connie going through like withdrawals or something. Like that's a weird way to cross-cut these two things. But the movie's not very sexual. Like I figured there would be something with Harry trying to like seduce Catherine or Connie trying to seduce Richard, but none of that happens, which is weird to me.
It is because, well, Mark Helgenberger
Connie's more interested in seducing Alex.
Well, Connie is, to a degree, is super horny in this movie, but it's just kind of a generalized thing. Like it's going out in all directions, but not really at Richard because William Cat is William Cat. He
spends like a third of the movie knocked out in a boat.
He does. He did. How long were they tied up for? Her giant sweater and him in the boat.
I mean, at least a day, maybe a day and a half.
Where did they shit and piss?
I don't know. I guess when Richard comes out of that boat, he's got an underwear full. My
favorite part with him locked in the thing is when Harry comes over. David Keeps Harry walks over, opens it, looks at it, enjoys his own handiwork, and walks away. I'm like, I sure did get him, and then smiles and walks away. Like, it's an interesting dynamic that I didn't see coming really in that first 10 minutes where Harry and Connie are both crazy, which fine. But Connie is so much crazier.
Yes. So when we were watching this separately, I was kind of like, I don't know if this movie is trying to say something about the state of like how people with mental illness are treated, because they make some references to her getting electroshock therapy, which I think is very much frowned upon right now. And like, so I don't know if they're trying to say something or if they are falling into that classic 90s thriller thing of, oh, well, they're crazy, so that's why they're like this.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I couldn't tell if we were supposed to have sympathy for her being treated poorly by the mental health, just treatments at like, they're basically in a, like what we would consider a psycho ward in 1990s movie.
Yeah,
right?
They must be in an asylum, and that's where apparently that's where they met, I guess.
Like Harry's kind of crazy, but he's not that crazy.
Oh, well, we need to talk about his craziness, but we'll get to it as we go through the movie.
But like, Marg is just, it upset me so much because like I saw this review on IMDb, which was, we love to talk about in this place, and we'll talk about the keywords at some point here too. Because it's episode 100, we got to hit up all our greatest hits, which are IMDb keywords and IMDb user reviews, and
just like every other movie podcast.
Yes, and there's one right away. The top one. It's called A Dumb, Sick, Violent Movie. It is dumb. It's not sick violent. It's just dumb. It's dumb violent. The violence is hilarious, but this person clearly has a problem with Mark Helgenberger, which I don't get. They're like, Mel Harris and William Cat were all right, but David Hot Stud Keith and Marge, I think I'm the best actor that ever lived. Helgenberger overacted like crazy. I'm like, did she do something to you? She's a successful actress. You know what? If you go from this, where there's scenes where, I don't know if it's a TV movie or directed at VHS or what the hell it was, but if you get scenes where like you're clearly told, you know what, we want you to sit in your underwear for a while, and that's what Hollywood's going to do to you, a talented actor, and then you eventually, through the power of being on the Tommyknockers, get to be on a show where you're paid millions per episode because you are valuable to the series. Good for you. I don't care what Tim Mock has to say. She beat the system.
Well, she did.
Beat the fuck out of it.
This review, I see this review now, and it says that this person, they had nothing to do during a rainy Sunday, so they watched this abomination. It was either this or figure skating, so I decided this would cause less suffering. I was wrong. Of course you are, because figure skating can be fucking cool.
It is. They're doing cool, difficult stuff. You try jumping in the air and spinning and landing on a thin skate, a thin blade of metal on ice.
They're athletes at the top of their game. They're out there on the ice shape. On television.
Oh, but I'm sorry about your nothing to do Sunday. You don't want suffering. And
but this random low budget thriller, this low budget family thriller that I decided to watch wasn't as good as figure skating.
They were upset about the scene where Marge was practically molesting the kid. That's not her choice. The people making this movie just told her, we're going to put you in a short skirt, dance around enough, and people will see if your skirt goes up.
Well, that scene is kind of wild.
This is where the other point I wanted to make about 1990s and especially early 90s, because we talked about this before, but and women and trying to understand this mysterious species that have suddenly shown up on Earth called the woman. And we all of a sudden learned about the ticking time bomb that was fertility.
Oh yes. I mean, that is a big part of this, isn't it?
Yes, and she's crazy because she doesn't have a baby. She doesn't have a child. She doesn't have a husband.
Yeah.
Her biological clock has been ruined by these crazy pills and her everything else, but she still wants it because it's just ticking on her. And it's like, what was it with the 1990s where all of a sudden did you know women only have a certain time frame to have children, and there's a conflict with what they want to do in their life or being stuck with children, and they have to choose? I never realized before. It's always been true. Except for we forced the decisions upon them for a long time, which was fun.
Yeah, if we don't let this woman have a child, she'll take a lamp cord and try to electrocute us.
Man, when she finally takes out Catherine June, it is so fucking ECW. I love it.
Oh, it's crazy. All right, let's go through this thing so we can kind of get to these important beats of this story. So they're hanging out. They're having dinner. I think right after we come back from that 10-minute break in part one. They're having dinner together. And Harry pulls out the old classic, "Hey, you like seafood?" And then he sticks his tongue out with all that chewed food on it and goes, "See? Food!" You're like, oh my God, how old are you?
Man, he just understands his own what demographics he's going after. That's all.
Yeah. And Richie comes home and they kind of do this weird handshake for Camp Seabreeze.
Well, at least that established that he was his cousin.
Yes,
right?
and that's what was weird to me, because I was fully expecting this to be, like I said in part one, he found out about Richard's cousin and he stole his identity and then kind of moved in. But no, he is actually his cousin, and he just had a mental break 10 years ago when he saw that Richard had gotten married and moved to California, and that sent him over the edge.
It's such a moment.
It's flimsy as hell.
It's such a white collar, white male fantasy of if someone saw how wonderful my life is, my generic office advertising job. My beautiful
my
wife,
orange soda advertising job.
my orange soda. Like I'm orange crushing this life, and I have a single child because that's all I have time for. Though I don't have time to take care of him, and I have a beautiful wife and a giant sweater. If anyone saw me live this American dream, they go crazy because they can't pull themselves up from their bootstraps. So they're just jealous and they're so angry. They hate me because they can't be me.
That is basically what it is that like he saw this thing in there. He gives them this newsletter from one of their other cousins who puts out this thing about the family so that everybody can kind of keep informed, which sounds incredibly annoying. I would hate getting that in the mail. I would just throw that away immediately.
I had, especially when I was in my early 30s and 20s, I had a couple of friends and family members who did do this. And
did you do this and set up a website for it? Because I know you set up websites for lots of shit.
I wish I would do this and make fake ones. It'd be fucking hilarious. And what was great was there's a few of them where, because I knew them better than the people they were sending the cards about, was that the card stories were absolute bullshit. Like they lost their jobs. They had terrible trouble with postpartum. They just are in fucking misery. But if you ask them, they're the good distance cousins. They're the Richard Sullivans. They are not the Harry Youngs. But what I like about this is that Richard Sullivan, the man David Keith's Harry Young, is so jealous of. He can't stand. He had a mental break. Is so boring.
He sucks. He's terrible.
Harry Young, the main villain of the movie, is so much more interesting. David Keith is having so much more fun. He's 10 times as charismatic on screen. His plan is so well thought out. He's got all these steps. Like he's doing all these things to undermine Richard that I would never have thought to do.
Yes.
Him
applying for a job under Richard's name is genius.
It's so great to get him, that got him in trouble for a breach of contract. Like, who thinks to do that? And also his computer, I love that word processor, because in 1993 you would have had a color screen.
He's still got the very old
it's
stuff.
He's got this perfect house, but he's got a 1979 terminal computer.
So they get this newsletter where he explains, like, oh, hey, I got this newsletter, and that's how I knew that you came out to California. And he was like, oh, that's weird. It's like from 10 years ago. And he kind of gives a hesitation here. And this is sort of the first moment where you're like, oh, well, not the first moment, but this is clearly a moment where you're like, oh, something is wrong. Because he's like, oh, well, I thought you might want that as a souvenir in your family photo album or something. And then after dinner, they sit down and do something that I think only people in movies do, which is watch old family films.
I can't, unless you consider 1980s movies now old family films, because they are very, if you think about it, very old. Even this is very old. I don't, I've never sat down and like, hey, Holly, let's watch some public domain movies. It's Sunday. Let's just watch something in black and white, some old fashioned movie like we do when we're the perfect white family. And we don't. We watch baking shows instead. The other perfect white family thing to do.
Well, but have you ever sat down with your family and watched videos that they've taken while they've been on vacation somewhere?
No, fuck no. That's what social media is for. And I didn't back in the day.
That's the thing. It's gone away. Like, that stuff has gone away because you can just post videos on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or wherever, and your family can find that and look at it. Let's be honest. It's only on Facebook that they can find that, but they can find it and look at it there, and you don't have to bore them when you actually see them.
No, exactly. Like, even, okay, I was very much alive. Wasn't a tadpole in the 80s or 90s. So like,
gross.
No one I know did. No one I know did this. No one. Like, if you came over and someone was honestly interested in what you went, like where you went and what you saw, you might break out the photo album and give it to somebody while you did something else. And they looked at it from the side.
Yeah, I'm gonna go play with these Legos. You look through those photos.
Like, yeah, like, and you like they look at the 6 good shots that they got, and you had to toss all the rest because you didn't know until they're developed. Like that's it. Like the photo albums I took of my friends and stuff and girlfriend and everything else in high school and college, like that was just for me to remember what I did, because it was like I was busy and sometimes I might forget. Like I never like, hey guys, let's get all together and look at these shots. Like I think I posted on Facebook recently. Like I had a like reel video, like I think it's 8mm or something, from when I was a baby. My father took back then, and I found it and was able to save, I don't know, 2 minutes out of 3 reels from a professional video place to transport to DVD, and when they added a stupid soundtrack to it.
Probably public domain music.
Yes. But the wonderful thing is I found that because no one remembered they existed in my entire family, because my family shot it and they did nothing with it. Never showed it to anyone ever. When I found it, I'm like, hey, you guys had a video camera with film that's not a VHS? Like, when did you have this? And my mom's like, I don't remember that. And yet they were filming me as a baby, and it completely fell out of their brain.
You should retweet that, and you should tweet that out, and we'll retweet it from the show account.
Oh, you can see me with my giant head walking around butt naked. My father lights a cigar and looks clearly thinks it crosses his brain, the boy's got no pants on again.
And then it's soundtracked by something from Boss House.
From Boss. God, man, I have Boss House in my head all the time now. No, we had a camcorder in the 90s and the early 2000s. Big VHS thing. I don't know what any of those videos are. They're gone, probably, or taped over. We never watched them. And I have no idea what we do with them. After we took the tape out and put it away somewhere, I have no idea. It might be my mother's house. It might be gone. Who the fuck knows? Who has a VHS to play it on anymore? Who has the red and yellow RCA cords to hook it up to something?
Yeah, no, it's pointless. But again, no one outside of films does this. So they kind of go through like their younger lives, and they're talking about themselves, and the kid Alex is kind of interested. He's like, oh, is that you? Is that my dad or whatever? They talk about being good knot tiers, and how Harry is apparently very good at tying knots, which might come into play later. And also how he broke Richie's arm when they were wrestling as kids. And so that was something, and I was like, oh, I guess he must. At this point, I still wasn't totally convinced that they were actually cousins. Because I was like, oh, maybe he's still faking it. But like at this point, I was like, oh, he must be his cousin because he seems to know quite a lot about Richard. And Richard tries to get them to stay the night, but they don't want to impose. They like it out in their camper. So they kind of start to see how things are going. They have this, I don't remember if we mentioned it in part 1, but they have Harry supposedly has a job lined up in Portland, and they were just passing through Los Angeles to see them first before they head up to Oregon. I don't think that's real, right?
No, because like his whole plan is to come here and steal his life, like from day one, right?
Yeah, basically. It seems like yes.
It's so weird that this is his cousin, like, because later when they're trying to find proof of his not being a good guy, besides that he's clearly not a good guy. Like Catherine June is like, no one's heard from him in 10 years. Like, that's like a big damning evidence.
Yeah.
it's not. Like I haven't heard from a lot of cousins, and I'm the cousin most people haven't heard from in 10 years.
I mean, I have some cousins that I haven't heard from. Some, it just, life gets in the way and you don't talk to them. And then others, in 2016, they commented on one of my Facebook statuses, "Woot woot Trump train," and I just stopped talking to them.
I mean, that's both immature and disgusting, but
so they kind of start, we get some hints here. I think that Connie is maybe unstable slightly because she and Catherine are talking after dinner, and she says that she's very sorry about breaking a bowl and that she would like to pay for it, and Catherine is like, no, it's totally fine, I understand, like after a long road trip I'm kind of a zombie too. And Connie immediately seems to like bristle and take offense at that, and she's like, well, I didn't say that. It's like, oh no, I
loved her like little crazy outburst. Even when she's like full crazy, every now and then she'll say something that's even crazier, like a different level. Like there was a point later on where she's trying to bustle the boy outside to get him out of.
Oh my God! When she smacks that kid,
well, she's shoving him out the window, out the door, not the window, but like she's just pushing him outside so he won't see what she's doing. And he's like, "I'll meet up with you. I have to take a call." And he goes, "Are you calling my mom?" And she goes, "I ain't calling your mom."
Oh, you're talking about with Alex. I was talking about the kid who was trying to put the flyer for the car wash on their car. And she smacks him.
That was pretty good. She's like, I know that guy on IMDb who's very important to our conversation.
Oh yeah, that's the Ferrari kid, right?
Who can't stand him, can't stand her, but she's doing a fantastic job at what she's being asked to do.
No, yes, no. She like you already said, like her and David Keith are like really embracing what this movie is, how wild it is. And I think William Catt is just sort of sleepily walking through it because he's not in the movie that much. He's not really required to do much until like the very end. And Catherine is like kind of in between.
Like I think Mel Harris was told like, "Oh, just be suspicious and really boring, and everyone will relate to you as the protagonist." And it's like, Mel Harris can do more than this, but sure, why not? Just call her Catherine June, put her in giant sweaters, make her look stern at a bank. God, the amount of bank at the end of this movie.
Oh, there's a lot of bank. And Harry and Richard are like kind of walking around outside, and Richard's talking about this boat that he's finishing with Alex. This is how wealthy they are. They also have a big kind of gaudy looking house. But Harry's like, "Oh, well, while I'm here, do you mind if I work on the boat? Like, I've always wanted to work on a boat." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever, it's fine." And then that night, Catherine and Richard are talking in bed, and she comes out and asks, "Oh, hey, did your cousins maybe like marry each other? Because that results in like real messed up genetics."
It does.
It does, but that's a fucked up question to ask.
It is. But you have to ask sometimes.
And this is what I mentioned earlier, where they have this kind of cross-cutting back and forth with Richard trying to have sex with Catherine and her not really being into it, but him kind of he's not forcing himself on her, but he is kind of pushing her to have sex with him. And so they have sex while at the same time Connie is having this kind of freak out in the camper van while Harry's looking for her pills, and he finally finds them. And he settles her down, and then he drives his camper out to the woods, and he opens up the sofa compartment, and inside is the owner's body, the guy from the rest stop that we said is probably dead in part one. He is definitely dead. He's wrapped in a plastic bag. He pulls him out, and I was like, oh, he's going to bury him. No, he just takes him to a hill and kicks him down it. And drives away.
He had a lot of time between killing this guy and now to
dump the body
somewhere safer, or like, by the way, this body would smell awful when he's sleeping. But only now he does it in the most casual way. Like he's just doing it for fun. It felt like
he's in Los Angeles, so he's probably in like Griffith Park or something. He just kicked this plastic wrapped body down a hill.
Hey. I'm sure a lot of people who aren't from California think that's what California's like. It's only a half truth.
But he, like, wherever they got this guy, when we saw him in the first part, he's in like a desert area. So it's probably like Nevada, Arizona, somewhere in that area. And he could have, I've driven through that I've driven from Alabama to California. That there is long stretches where there's nothing. You could easily find a place to dump a body that no one would ever find it.
But
and he chooses a park.
Well, he's crazy, man. He's crazy. Except for he's not really crazy. I mean, he's violent and he wants to give Connie the life she wants because he honestly loves her. And he seems to actually like the kid Alex.
Yeah.
But he's crazy.
Yeah.
Because he's crazy with jealousy. And he casually killed this guy and wrapped him in plastic and dumped him in a park in one of the most populous cities on the face of the planet.
What I needed was I needed something like a news report or something in the background saying that like a body was found this morning in this park wrapped in plastic with no identification. Police are looking for leads. Like I just needed something to let me know that body had been discovered at some point, and maybe using that as like, you know, when they sneak out later with Alex, it's like, oh, you know, it's very dangerous out there. There's this person out there who's murdered someone in our neighborhood with you know, dropping bodies in plastic around places. Like, I want you to be careful. But they never go back to it. Like this crime is just never mentioned again.
It's in fact the perfect crime because he never gets in trouble for it.
He doesn't.
He basically dies never having paid for it.
So next day, like they're kind of feeling each other out and trying to sort of, you know, understand each other. Richard's gone to work and Catherine and Connie are kind of talking, and Connie makes some comments about how she can't really eat anything early in the morning, which gives Catherine some kind of pause. Maybe she's just intermittent fasting. Catherine, get off her case.
Like this, I had a real reaction to this because I don't eat breakfast. I'm not interested in breakfast. Like I'll have breakfast once. I eat breakfast like once a year.
Oh my God. Even what a treat.
Like sometimes I won't eat till dinner, but like I've never enjoyed breakfast. Breakfast food's fine. It's great. I'll eat it later in the day or something, but like I'm not hungry in the morning and I'm never in the mood to cook in the morning. To the point where like people on TV shows where someone like every day this family apparently wakes up and makes several courses of breakfast. And then if you aren't hungry, they're suspicious of you. Go fuck yourself. It's the morning, man. My mouth tastes like shit.
And they kind of talk a little bit about Alex and like his punishment for breaking into that guy's house with his dinosaur robots. And Connie says, you know, you got to hurt them to teach them sometimes, which obviously seems like that is hearkening back to some lessons that she learned while she was in the institution. And this is when Harry kind of starts laying the trail for Alex to kind of be more friendly to them than he is to his own parents. And he's talking about how the reason for him being grounded is really silly. And, you know, he didn't really do anything wrong, and that he and Connie are going to go into town and they want him to go with them since he knows the place and they'll help break him out. And so they start laying the groundwork here for them to try to, you know, take Alex away essentially and get him to sort of switch sides. We find out,
which never works in these.
No,
I would like to say one movie where the family who is trying to steal their family's life, because there are a lot of them, and they'll have someone try to sway the child, like we're your new parents because we spoil you, and just one time the kid go, you know what, this is awesome, sure. And if any kid was going to be, it's Blank Check here.
That's right. You gave me some shit because I said that he was best known as Blank Check when in fact he was on Star Trek: The Next Generation and Family Ties for long periods of time.
Wikipedia disagreed with you about what he's best known for. He's also now a musician with a neck tattoo.
So yeah, we find out here that Catherine is an artist. I didn't get that in the first 10 minutes, but she is
I constantly forgot it.
She's an artist of some kind. I was never totally sure. I think she makes stained glass, I guess.
It's such a movie job.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Richard's executive advertising job is enough to have them afford this huge house, or maybe she does well enough with her glass making.
I mean, I'm not I imagine there are some people who are professional fancy glassmakers who make an incredibly good wage and living.
Like, what was her connection with Marcy at the gallery?
They're friends.
That's it? Like, she didn't have any stake in the gallery, or she didn't have a show up or anything like that?
I mean, I don't think she did, but she could have at some point. Marcy, played by Mary Crosby. That's right. The daughter of Bing Crosby, who dies in this movie.
I didn't realize that that's who that was.
That is Bing Crosby's daughter, my friend.
Wow. Yeah, yep. That's kind of crazy.
The daughter of Bing Crosby and Catherine Grant.
Wow. Very cool. So they set up a lot of things here in this scene where she's in her studio, because there's a blowtorch there.
That's great.
Goddamn sure comes back at the end. Harry goes through the medicine cabinet looking for some medication. He ends up breaking a cold cream jar or something in the sink. And I thought, oh, this guy's just looking for pills. Like, he's looking for medication that'll help Connie. But he's actually super smart about this, which is that he finds a name on a label. He calls the pharmacy, pretends to be the doctor to put in a prescription for the pills that Connie needs.
His level of competency at this made me think he was as powerful and smart as the Stockter by Stalked by My Doctor.
Oh, yes. Very similar, actually, because they both do some Southern accent things. I mean, Eric Roberts has got a weird accent that he can...
In general,
that is kind of similar to Harry's. But yeah, like, it's pretty cool that he figures out a way to do this. So then they sneak Alex out of the house, and they go first to a real estate agent, because their big plan hinges on them trying to find a house that looks like a house in a fake ad.
What was this?
So it's like an ad for a house that you would buy and then build yourself in the 50s.
It's like I don't know. Like, it's if like you were making a fake ad for and just put like, I don't know, let's make a fake ad for a fake restaurant. Let's just put burger and then a phone number at the bottom. And someone's like, that's the perfect burger. I need to find that. It's so childish to have her do this. Like, it infantizes her in a way.
Yeah. But we don't know exactly what their plan is yet, but that we see them at a real estate agent. We don't know that maybe, I mean, I guess we do know because we have seen the dead body, so we know something is wrong. I think they kind of they reveal their hand a little too quickly, maybe. Like, it could have gone a little longer with us not totally knowing what's going on with them. Maybe just a tad bit longer. I mean, I get it. This is, 90 minutes. They got to get in and get out pretty quickly. But like, we knew something was off, but we didn't need to know so quickly that it resulted in some guy getting murdered and his body thrown down a hill.
Yeah, I don't like. It's. You know that the bad guy's right away the second he speaks. That's just what it is. That's how it is. But like,
that's a problem.
Which is. You can go that way, but like you can do something to make you wonder what kind of bad guy is, like what level of dangers he is. Yeah. And the killing of that guy revealed so early to let us know that he's willing to kill but at the same time having so little weight, it makes it less dangerous. Like, I think what works in something like this really well is that, like, you have to like picture it. We only see scenes of them together. Like, hey, here's a scene where they eat one piece of toast and we move on next thing. But like, what we're supposed to feel like is these are people who have interacted for hours on end, days on end, right? So at least, you know, even though there's some conflict as they're trying to figure out how they all fit together, they've spent hours and hours together. And in this case, they're distant cousins, but they are family. Like, he knew Harry from as a child. Like, they are very familiar with each other on that level. And the real betrayal of it is someone you gain some comfort around, not only having spent all this time being fake to you, that they spent hours and hours like being too, like, pretending to like you and just do casual things with you, but actually want to kill you. And to be at another level, like, not only like willing to betray you or are scamming you, but are willing to kill you.
Yeah.
And that's such a higher level. And the movie never, even though it gets very violent at the end, it never feels like our protagonists are really like, oh my God, these two are willing to kill us. They're willing to kill other people. This is crazy. Like, this is terrifying. Like, at all times, the entire attitude of Catherine June, Mel Harris, is distaste and irritation. Like, even when she's captured and she's got a knife to her and she's tied up and everything else, she just looks like she's just kind of pissed because her afternoon's been ruined.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that, but it's like that from the beginning. Like, the minute they show up, she's just kind of like put off, which I was going to say, like, is he putting on the Southern accent to try to get them to drop their guard a little bit? Like, I think them feel like, oh, he's this Southern gentleman.
I think that's it. And I get where that's coming from. I mean, a lot of us would be put at guard by a Southern accent at this point.
That's why I do it on this show all the time.
Yeah, it makes the audience feel comfortable and charmed by you, not put off by.
Welcome to predictocast, the one show where we do a fun thing with the movies, making a prediction.
Let's do a lot less shows next year because of this. But here's where it doesn't work for me: is that it doesn't charm her.
Yes,
it just annoys her. And two, wouldn't Richard know that his cousin
that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like, why is he doing this? Because did he have an accent when he was a child and he lost it somehow?
He lost it when he went insane? Like,
I guess that's part of it.
If you like had a cousin you knew up through pretty much teenagerhood and then disappeared 10 years ago or whatever, and you've only heard of them every now and then, but like them as an adult showed up with an incredibly thick accent they did not have as a child, would you just think like, oh, that's charming, or go, what's going on? What?
No, you know what it is? It's like when your friend would go in college and study abroad for a semester and then they'd come back with a British accent. This guy just went to the South for 6 months and he came back and that's how he is now.
I just learned to flatten my voice and talk a little louder, and that makes me sound American.
Yeah, you did it. So they go to the real estate agent is important because when they come out, they make her take a photo of them with Alex, with his headphones on. And I think it kind of goes to what you were saying in part one of them taking pictures of themselves in front of the house, kind of like, oh, this is our place because we're here, and this is our kid because he's with us, like that kind of thing. So they're definitely setting that up.
Here's the thing though, like if someone just took a bunch of pictures of themselves at your house or with your child and then just killed you and said like, hey, now this is our place, it's because they killed your one friend Marcy. There are in real world literally hundreds of people who would notice.
Yeah, it's their plan is very flimsy.
I mean, they are crazy, but it's presented like it's a masterstroke.
Yes,
which I love.
We'll steal all your money and your identity, and then. But I think their plan is to move
because they need to leave so they can build the dream house.
Yes, up in Portland. Well, they find a house at the end of the movie. They find one, and they're looking to go move to that. They need the money to get to it.
This movie, for Thriller, has a lot of real estate and bank stuff. So
there's so much. So they, Catherine at this point, she finds like a little piece of broken glass from the jar in the sink. She gets suspicious. She goes to tell Alex to turn down his music, but finds that he's gone. And then we get like probably the body was like, oh, okay, I saw that coming. When we get to the pharmacy, this is when the movie starts dropping scenes that I was not expecting. And weirdly enough, they both involve fire. So at the pharmacy, they're giving Harry like some resistance about picking up the prescription because it's a ton of pills, more than a normal prescription would be. They're kind of not sure about the doctor because they don't have verifying information. And Connie is getting kind of agitated, so she's just like kind of storms out. And then we find out suddenly that the RV that they stole from that guy after killing him is on the street on fire, just in blazes. Destroying the evidence. This is where like they could have left his body in there, and like I thought, okay, they killed it. They burned this place to get rid of this thing, to get rid of the evidence that they had stolen this thing, and to get rid of his body. Which they still would have found a burnt body inside it when the authorities came. But still, like, it would have been something more than rolling it down a hill. But like when I saw like, oh, they burned it. Oh yeah, they got rid of the body. So, I mean, I guess it's literally just a distraction so that Harry can grab the pills. I know it gives them the excuse to move in with them, but also it's crazy that like, let's just set our camper on fire to distract like, this old man so he can get one pill. Well, but so she does that in the spur of the moment to distract him, and he later kind of chastises her for it, like, you know, I wish you hadn't done that. That you kind of rushed things. Does that mean that it was always in the plan to set the RV on fire? Yes, in some way, but like they didn't know when. They had to find the perfect spot. In her defense, it worked out well. Yeah, she picked the right time. I mean, she picked her spot, and it worked out well. It's very funny that he's supposed to be also crazy, and he's most of the time it's like, oh, Connie, calm down. Oh, come on, I just had this one crazy plan, but just let me get through it. Just don't be that next level crazier than me. He's never portrayed as using her for anything. He legitimately loves Connie. Yeah, he does seem to truly care about her, which makes the ending very devastating for him. So, like, they kind of pretend to be pretty bummed out about the RV fire. And, of course, one of, like, 19 speeches of him going, I'm sorry, we're pushing ourselves upon you. I'm sorry for inconveniencing you, Richard. Like, he does his speech like at least 17 times for the rest of the movie. Yeah, he definitely lays it on pretty thick. But Richard, of course, insists that they do stay there. And Catherine is not feeling great about it, obviously. And Richard confronts Harry about helping Alex sneak out because they found out about it and they were not happy. And Harry's like, well, I didn't know that Alex was grounded. And then Richard's like, well, Alex says that you did. He told you and you still helped him sneak out. And then Harry's like, well, you know how kids are, fucking liars. Like, he basically is just saying, well, that kid's lying. So listen to me, this guy you haven't seen in probably 20 years. Yeah, but also at the same time, he's not wrong. This little kid's a shit. Yeah, I guess he does know that, you know, Alex is a bit of a troublemaker, so it's totally fine. And you know, they try to smooth things over as much as they can, but it's not going great. Catherine is just suspicious and hesitant about them pretty much from the beginning. And this is when they kind of there's a scene here where Connie and Harry are in bed at night, and this is kind of when he's talking to her about like, hey, you rushed things a little bit too quickly, burning the RV and everything. And she is so like set on, she wants her own home, she wants to be a wife, and she wants to be a mother. And this is when he drops the information that he's working on all that because he had a lot of time in the hospital to think and build his plan.
This plan is both so well thought out with these really specific things he needs to do, and at the same time seems made up as he goes. So depending on what scene it is, so it's hard to when he comes up, when he's talking about like he made the perfect plan while he's there. I'm like, not sure I believe you. Like, and also if her plan is like, I'm going to steal from my boring cousin, come up with a second plan. And then do some pros and cons. Like, if you're willing to kill, go kill someone richer than Richard.
Well, it's weird because like when he gives him that family newsletter from 10 years prior, did he do any research on Richard to know that he was still wealthy, that like he was still married?
Josh, when a rich white guy gets money, it doesn't ever go backwards.
Okay, fair. fair point. Even in the early 90s, they knew that.
Like when he was worried about this contract problem and like breach of contract with his company that happens later on, he knows he's going to land on his feet. He's just sad that someone doesn't believe in his integrity as a rich white guy business guy.
So they have to go out, and Harry and Connie want to run some errands. Harry goes through Richard's desk and finds a bunch of documents. They borrow Catherine's car. I love when they go in to ask Catherine to borrow the car, and they're like, "Oh, well, Richard said we could borrow your car," and she stands up very quickly and she's like, "Well, I have things to do."
The movie doesn't seem to think so most of the time, honestly.
No. And they're like, well, we'll be back in time for you to go pick up Alex, who's working at the art gallery. But they have other plans. They go to the DMV and they use the documents that he stole from Richard's desk to get a license in Richard's name.
That's not how it works.
I know, because Richard would already have a DMV account and like his name would already be in the system, right?
I mean, every now and then you need to go get second or third or fourth driver's license.
Yeah, I need multiple driver's licenses. I just leave them in my various cars because I'm very wealthy.
God, I need a new driver's license before the end of the year, and it's a fucking pandemic. I just realized that, and it made me sad.
Oh, man. Good luck to you.
I better send my cousin after it to make it for me.
Make sure you tell him to get that real ID so you can get on a plane next year.
That ain't happening.
Maybe one day. So they go to the art gallery where Alex is working after school as kind of punishment, and they pick him up from Marcy. Connie, I think, has this freak out over a piece of art. She's like, "Oh, I must have it. It's so amazing. I must get it." And Harry's like, "Well, we'll have to figure out some way for you to get that." And Marcy goes, "Well, you could pay for it." And he's like, "Oh, I didn't think of that one."
Southern people, they don't understand how this stuff works.
Money? We can't barter for it?
I got a can of moonshine from you.
I got some hardtack and some fatback. I can give you for that painting, no problem.
I'll paint your fence.
So they take Alex home, and Catherine's not super thrilled about this because they expressly went against what she was planning to do. Harry is trying to shave Alex's face at this point, which is terrifying.
You know, he's just becoming a man. He also looks like a baby.
He's a tiny child, and he's not yet a man because he doesn't have a neck tattoo just yet, but he is he's getting his face shaved, and Catherine comes in and she's kind of like pissed off and mad because they were like, "Oh, we thought it'd be a nice surprise." And she's like, "I don't like surprises when it comes to Alex." She's very protective of this kid. Maybe a little too much, but this is.
I get a feeling that if Harry was on the level and was just a friendly distant cousin who was legitimately happy to see Richard and legitimately into spending time with Alex, she would be equally upset about everything. Like, because she never gets like, you're trying to murder me upset. I feel like no matter what, if anyone just tried to change her routine, she would just be kind of irritated.
Yeah, I mean, her level of irritation is pretty constant throughout, even when it becomes clear that like her friend has been murdered and that, it's like, oh, you guys, I'm angry at you. But like, it just is sort of a perturbed angry.
Okay, when we get to the bank scene, just her level of not being nearly upset enough.
And like later that night, Harry brings out some booze while Richard is trying to work, and they decide to take a break and go hit some golf balls in the backyard, which I don't know where they're hitting them to. I guess they have a big enough house that they can just shag these things into the neighborhood.
Just poor people's yards and windows.
And this is when Harry suggests he should add some sex appeal into his orange soda advertising campaign. Which I guess he does, because he says it's doing, like, it gets better and he owes it all to Harry.
I have trouble to think that like any advertising person for whatever they're advertising, whether it be Glad garbage bags, Orange Crush, stool softener, anything, didn't at some point go, what if we inject it with more sex appeal?
I mean, like how does
that's like day one?
Yeah, how does an orange soda ad inject sex appeal into itself? Is there like a topless woman, but her boobs are oranges and they're like shooting out orange juice and orange soda?
There's that, and there's straws, and so this cartoon cat drinks from them.
Oh my God. Filthy.
Let me tell you what this cartoon cat who drinks this orange boob. The cat's name is Crush the Cat. He's orange. And he loves Orange Crush, but he likes to get it at the source.
But he's also
happens to be these orange tits.
He's also a lumberjack for some reason.
He's also a lumberjack. He's got sunglasses. You got to understand this.
He's very cool.
He's very cool.
And we want children to dress up as him for Halloween.
They do it. They were walking around with their straws.
Crush the Cat, the newest sensation.
Kids can't get enough of that sucking cat. Go get
Mom,
sucked, says Crush the Cat.
Mom, can you get me the soda with that cat who sucks out of those orange tits?
They would know which one it is.
All the kids at school are having that, and if I don't have it, I'm going to be a loser.
I've got a t-shirt. It's Crush the Cat hanging around with the Big Johnson guy for some reason.
Oh man, it's been a long day of lumberjacking. Ready to suck on some orange tits.
It helps get after a long day of lumberjacking off. I really need a big pull. That cold, delicious orange tits, Orange Crush, straight from the source.
We did it. We nailed it, man. Richard's gonna be a millionaire.
Oh my God, that's like $5 billion in 2020 dollars. They can make a great Sega Genesis game with that, my friend.
Oh my God! Yes,
all the collectibles.
It's a platformer, but they're all just orange boobs,
just bouncing off them.
Yeah. So,
and it's the enemies are called the Flatsies. Flat soda, flat ladies.
Oh, fucking Crush, you pervert. All right. So Catherine calls up this cousin who is making the family newsletter. Pete Young is his name. And I was curious about this because I'm not sure exactly when what time of year this movie's taking place, because they don't really go into it. I would assume sometime middle of the year, because it's summertime, I think, right? Because that kid never seems to go to school.
Never seems to go to school, and there's a point where Harry's out in the front lawn with a house coat, shorts, no shirt, no pants.
Okay, so it's probably summertime, or it's got to be summer because he's not at school. That's why he goes to that that's why he probably goes to the art gallery during the day. Maybe it is school. It doesn't fucking matter. Regardless, my point was she calls this guy, and when she calls him, it's dark in California. So what time is it whenever wherever he is? If he's in the other side of the country, it's like midnight when she's calling to talk about this random cousin.
God damn daylight savings time. The fucking farmers. It gets so dark so early now.
And she asks him if he still sends Harry his newsletter, and he's like, well, no, I haven't talked to him in 10 years. So all this hinges on that one newsletter that he got that showed that Richard was getting married to Catherine June, and it sent him on a spiral that institutionalized him.
Makes no sense. Also, she acts like this is huge evidence. It really isn't.
No.
She gathers these small bits of evidence every 10 minutes or so where she digs through something, looks at it, maybe calls somebody or gets a call, and then goes like, But then like another 10 minutes passes before she does another one. And then
the other evidence that she finds is better than what she had before.
Yes, it keeps getting better, but like none of it is like her finding of like a diary with his like plans of like pictures of them with X's through it, and then like, photoshops of them with Alex or something. Like that's what she really needs to find.
Or she should find like an admission bracelet to the institution where he was staying, or like some sort of discharge papers or something like that. She
goes through Connie's laundry, and there's a straitjacket in there.
Because that's a good point. So they obviously he and Connie met when they were in an institution together, because he makes that oblique reference to they ate at the same place and he asked her out. So that's clearly them being in the same institution. But did they get out at the same time together, or did they break out?
Never is that ever broached how if they got out or broke out, because she's clearly still damaged, does not have a regular prescription, which they would give her. Because they wouldn't go like, well, you're still too crazy to let you out and not give you any medication to take care of yourself because you got a man now. I mean, all you had to do was like make this a reverse Joker Harley Quinn.
Sure, that would be fine. Or for her to see on the TV, like at the very end, police are on the lookout for these escaped mental patients, and then show their pictures.
Something other than all these little drips of evidence that she gets where she opens up a bag, finds something, and looks stern at it. Like, and she always looks stern in this movie. So it's not even like that much of an amp. Like she's never like, oh my God, what have I got myself up into? Because her highest level of anger is, I'm going to confront you with this.
Yeah. So they go, Harry and Connie go back to the real estate agent. They have this sort of dream home that they are set on trying to find. And this is the scene that I mentioned earlier where this kid is putting flyers on their cars in the parking lot for a car wash. And Connie says, they don't want a car wash and you should keep your trash off their car next time. And then she smacks him super hard in the face.
It's great.
It was startling to me. The most startling moments, I think, are any moment with Connie involved.
Yeah, like when she gets loud quickly, and when she accelerates her violence, which is there's some of them are so good, so good.
She does this kind of here too, because they go out to dinner to celebrate, I guess, Crush and his orange tit juice that Richard has successfully pitched.
He's like, man, I'm getting all these residuals on this Game Gear game.
Man, they're going to have a Spot and a Crush crossover game.
Man, I can't wait for the 3DO version to come out. I'll make $1 million.
And Connie starts to kind of get a little agitated. She wants to go and call Alex. And Catherine's like, yeah, no, my son is fine. He doesn't need to talk to you. And she's like, well, we have a really good connection. And she's like, well, he has a fine connection with his babysitter as well. And she kind of gets a little agitated by this and runs off. And Catherine brings up Cousin Pete and talks about how he hasn't heard from Harry in multiple years. And Harry's like, oh, I don't know what he's talking about. I just talked to him last week and I told him I was coming out here. And just like, okay, cool. So just downplay everything that she's bringing up.
It worked.
And it does. And so Connie like gets agitated and kind of runs off and is angry because she's like wants a drink to toast, but Harry keeps saying like, oh, maybe you've had enough. And he keeps trying to like keep her calm. And Catherine gives her some of her drink and she's like, I want my own drink. And she runs off and he follows her and then proceeds to shove pills down her throat in the bathroom, which was uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. I'm currently giving my elderly cat pills, and it was very similar to that.
Oh my God. And Catherine finds them and they kind of play it off like, oh, she's just having some medication issues and the alcohol didn't quite mix well. And she ends up finding one of the pills on the floor and sort of, tries to confront her husband, but Richard is such a do nothing character. He's like, it was probably nothing. And then just doesn't push it. I think we have some scenes here where like Connie watches Alex sleep, which is terrifying.
That's pretty, yeah. I mean, like it does a good job of just like, she's the more dangerous one.
Well, they definitely push that on her, which is a little, I don't know how I feel about that ultimately. Like at the end, I'm not sure how I feel about it.
It's kind of, oh man, the broads.
Yeah, I'm not totally comfortable with what happens to Connie here. It's pretty grotesque.
It's cruel
and
what they do
cruel.
to her. Yeah,
for sure. Like, she also asks Harry if Alex looks like her at all, which is very delusional. And then she lays out a line here that I feel like if there's a message for this movie, this is it, that a family ain't a family without a child.
that biological clock, man, just tick, 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 tick. Have you heard about it? This is a whole brand new thing.
Yeah, it's totally new. Catherine is cleaning up their room, finds the pills that Connie's been taking, and she calls the pharmacy and asks about it's chlorpromazine.
It's Parappa the Rapper, the pill version.
And oh man, that's gonna cross over with Crush the Cat too.
Absolutely, man, that's gonna be some great synergy.
Crush the Cat does like some really cool beat poetry on that game.
Sip, sip the tits. Sip, sip the tips.
Oh my God.
That's triangle, circle, by the way.
She calls the pharmacy, but the pharmacy's not in. And she goes out to see Marcy at the gallery with Alex, and the pharmacist calls the house while she's away and leaves a message that, oh, you need to call me back immediately. I'll tell you all about these pills. Something weird's going on. And Connie hears the message and kind of freaks out.
This is so quick too.
It happens very quickly because that night they go to the pharmacy as it's closing. They grab the pharmacist and then like inject him with potassium, which will give him a heart attack and isn't traceable, which Harry says I learned about on television.
They aren't even pretending to care to try.
No, I was baffled by how quickly this accelerates into them just murdering this guy.
They literally, you hear like Connie finds out about it at the house, and then she turns and screams, Harry! And actually, they're pinning him against the wall. Like it's literally a smash cut.
It's so wild. Like I figured there would be some tension there, a little bit. Like it would be, oh, we gotta delete this message, and then now we've got to wait, and he's going to call back or something. We have to figure out what we're going to do. Like they just have the plan immediately to go kill this guy.
And then they go kill him with a potato.
Potassium, a banana.
A banana. Now he won't get cramps, but he's dead.
And Harry does steal this perfume.
That's a stupid 1920s perfume bottle from the rest of the movie
for Catherine as a peace offering.
And it works.
But what I was going to say is with them killing the pharmacist, there is clearly a struggle there. So they can't just be like, oh yeah, he had a heart attack and died. The shelves are messed up. There's got to be a security camera in that pharmacy, right?
No, I mean,
the things that could trip them up never trip them up.
No, there's all this stuff where they seem like they're sloppy and angry and Connie's out of control, but nothing trips them up. The whole bang thing scenes are surely this will trip someone up. No.
His plan is just so perfect.
If Connie hadn't gone woman crazy, they would have got away with it.
That very, very true. That biological Clark,
biological Clark, the enemy of Crush the Cat.
I've had a beer before we recorded this. I'm sorry.
Only one, amazingly, considering what fucking day this is.
But yeah, her clock, the alarm went off, so she lost her mind.
Lost her damn mind.
They're having a party. It's unclear why Richard's having this party. I guess to celebrate Crush the Cat.
Why wouldn't I be celebrating that guy every day?
There's a fountain of a woman, and there's orange soda spraying out of her boobs.
And you just put your cup under there. Keep away.
Harry shows up and he gives her the perfume, and she seems sort of perplexed by this. And Connie is weirdly rude to the people at the party, talking about how people have no manners and there's this woman who comes up to the buffet area, and she's like, when I was a kid, you had to wait for everybody else to start eating. And it's just very mean to her. And then I think this is around the time that Catherine finds the credit card for the guy that they got the RV from.
Yes. But that, or his driver license or something.
I think she just, yeah, that's right. She does find his ID too. She finds everything.
And much like every bad one of these thrillers, her thing is nah, I knew they were bad. I knew something was up. Even though they've been clearly getting more and more dangerous and no one is here to help me, I'm just going to go tell them that I know they're bad and to leave. And that will probably work out okay. She's not scared. This information does not scare her.
She doesn't even know why they have that at first. She's just this is weird. Why do you have this?
Right. She could have inferred through her, it's hard to think when you're living in the high of all that Crush the Cat money. But doing Crush the Cat stained glass work.
Oh man, that's impressive.
Colorful too. Real good sense of movement. But she doesn't sense she could put together that means the trailer they burnt down was stolen. That's probably a bad sign. Connie seems really off, and she's not family. I should discuss this with somebody else first. Instead, I'm going to walk into a room with both of them, just myself, and say, aha, what's up with this? This is weird. Maybe you should leave.
Before she does that, though, this is when we get the scene with Richard's boss confronting him about this job application to a business in Portland. The guy at the company in Portland is friends with the guy that Richard works for, and he says that this is in breach of contract. Hope you like getting sued, basically. And Richard is kind of dumbfounded and well, I didn't do that. Clearly, I didn't do that because I'm, Crush the Cat. This is my thing. I'm gonna see this through.
Man, I'm crushing it with Crush the Cat. But
and he realizes that Harry is the one responsible because there's a running gag through the movie where Harry gets their street name wrong. He keeps calling it Woodbriar, and they live on Briarwood. And that's the address that's on the application. And at first I thought, oh, is that just a dumb, him being kind of like dumb hillbilly, like kind of getting their guard down? But no, he clearly keeps messing it up because he does it on the application. Like, he's not trying to give himself away, but he does.
In theory, maybe he wouldn't even find where they have lived in the first place if this was true. Because he had the wrong street address. Before Google Maps.
Good point. Like, how would he do that? He would be looking for Woodbriar, and he wouldn't be able to find the right street.
I like the idea that the boss does not, like, this doesn't go anywhere because we don't get any resolution on it. But like,
no,
his boss is like, clearly you did this. You're in breach of contract. And like, he's like, but I didn't. And it's like, like, it never occurs to like to the boss the idea that someone's identity could be stolen or someone else could use a computer and use your name is so, that isn't in the realm of possibility. And yet in 20 years, we're fighting that off every day with the skin of our teeth. Like, just, we're barely hanging on from somebody stealing everything about us at every second.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that there's no, like, that the boss gives no, like, thought to this whatsoever. But
God, now, like, he won't be able to work with Crush the Cat until Crush the Cat becomes into public domain, which they'll never let happen.
No, they will constantly renew that copyright. But this is where Catherine confronts Harry and Connie about the ID in the wallet, and Connie basically just immediately attacks her, and they fight, and she throws her through a fucking table. It's wild.
It's watching Connie throw Catherine June through a pressed table. Nell Scorcho here. It's so fucking great. Like, it's just an explosion of energy, and she just, like, it looks like it's gonna be a push fight for a second, and then no, she just, this tiny woman just takes this other woman and just smashes her through a table. And it's like, whoa, this is accelerated.
Yeah.
There's been deaths in this movie, but this is the most violent thing that's happened.
This is a pay-per-view right here.
It is.
And Harry grabs Connie off of Catherine and then kicks her in the face, knocks her out. Richard's trying to call home because he knows that something is going on. He's finally like, oh, my wife was right to be distrustful of these people. Because now they're trying to cost me my relationship with Crush the Cat.
He's like, oh my God, I've been distracted by this cat who just loves to drink out of these melons that are actually a different fruit altogether. But I've got to become a character in this movie all of a sudden.
Crush the Cat, he loves his citrus.
He does. That sweet citrus flavor, full of vitamin double D.
There we go. So he can't get through on the phone because they ripped the phone out of the wall.
They have perfect plan.
Perfect plan. They take Catherine down to the basement. They tie her up, and
perfect plan.
So he sends Connie and Alex away, and he's like, "Go do something fun and get out of here." They need to keep Catherine alive. They need to keep Richard alive because they have some things they need to do. And then he proceeds to suck off Catherine's ring by putting his mouth around her ring finger.
He's like, that Crush the Cat has given me an idea.
But I've seen this is another thing like the home movies I've only ever seen done in films of someone putting their entire fucking ring finger in their mouth to suck off their ring.
Like, hey, there's such a thing as water weight, and like sometimes your rings are more tight than others. Generally, if I feel like my ring is starting to like getting really tight because I ate a lot of salt or something, I've taken off for a while. I'm still married. It's fine.
But yeah, he gets the ring. He goes upstairs. Richard comes home, and Richard and Harry's like, things just haven't been going according to plan. And then he just punches Richard, knocks him out, and ties him up.
Oh, you're missing the wonderful just visceral shot of like he punches him in the stomach, and then we go to a side shot of the side of Richard's head and Harry's knee. That's all you see, and his head drives down into his knee. And it looks like it's not even shot like almost for a second. It looks like they shot it separately in front of like a white background. It's like an art piece. I don't even know what this was about, but it's so dismissive of Richard as a character because he's out of the movie for a while.
Yeah, he's out of the movie for a long time here. So he takes Richard.
This is not this isn't the end of the movie. Amazingly,
no, that's the weird part. Like I was like, oh, it's really accelerating here. Catherine's going to get out and she's going to fight them, and it's like, no. There's like a whole nother act that they have to go through. So he takes him out to the boat. He puts him in the boat, and he says, 10 years in a hospital was a long time to covet something, and the doctors told me I could be anything I wanted to be. But I wanted to be you, Richie. It's like,
and that's why I'm not acting anything like you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be more boring. This isn't a single white male. This is like it's basically Blake Shelton pulled up to like Bazinga's house. It's like, I'm just like you.
Yeah. No, it's actually that's a pretty good comparison.
It's only okay.
I wanted to be like you and create a cool mascot that would suck some liquid out of tits.
The residuals we so lucrative, and also it's what he sucks out.
So then we get to see kind of how they would be as parents, because they put on some rock music while they eat some burgers and fries. And they tell Alex that Richard and Catherine went to check on cousin Pete, who got sick. And this is when we get the aforementioned dance sequence where Connie and Alex are dancing together, and her boobs are in this child's face. And it's kind of wild.
I don't know why they did this scene. It isn't indicative of the relationship at all. Like when it first started, I had a heads up from a certain person named Jay Hollis, I won't give his full name, that at some point in this movie, Mark Helgenberger's bosom would be shoved into this child's face. And this scene happened, and I thought, it's probably not this scene, because this scene seems to be about, will her skirt flip up enough to see her panties? Not that we haven't seen her in her panties multiple times in this movie. Yeah. But I thought, they're just doing this again, because this movie just really likes her ass. And her orange crush nipples that gets Crush the Cat so excited. But no, they're doing this dance, and she's flipping around, she's going crazy, and then she just shoves him right. Like if they wanted to do this whole thing where she's having mommy issues, where her issues are with her not being a mommy. Yeah, like there are ways to get that across that aren't shoving an adolescent's face in her bazooms.
Yeah, it's a little crazy because she's like grabbing him and holding him really close and kind of grinding on him, and I was like, what are they doing? Did Brian Bosall go through puberty on the set of this movie?
Because that's the thing. Brian Bosall, blank check, got like, as an adult with his neck tattoo, he's sitting down on an evening where he's not having his rock band night, one of his 3 or 4 rock bands that he's gone through. He's sitting there. He's done with college. He's retired from acting because he's got the muse of music now. He's got all that Crush the Cat money. And he's watching CSI, and he's thinking, yeah, I was all up in that on set, and that took 4 takes, but it only took me 2.
So they're playing lots of loud music. The cops show up and they say, "Hey, turn down that music," which you think it's going to be something, but no, it's nothing. They just say, "Please turn down your music." So it's like, okay.
So they're far enough away they can hit golf balls where the fuck ever. But if they play loud music in a kid's room, the police notice.
Yeah.
What do they think? Like somehow that like not white people have broken in the house.
So they kind of live their life. They tell Alex he can stay up as late as he wants, and they're just kind of living it up. And Catherine kind of is struggling against her ropes, and she's making some noise downstairs. She's kicking some things and knocking things over. And Connie goes down to the basement, and she's very angry.
She's very angry, even though this is where she has they fuck in the master bedroom. They make a big deal of this.
That's true.
Because now he is Richard.
Yes.
Fucking in Richard's bed.
Yeah.
This is where, like, in a more sexual thriller, he would have steal Richard's wife because he wants to be Richard. Instead, he has a woman he's deeply in love with who is nothing like Richard's wife.
See, I thought that would have made sense, that like, I'm going to come in and I'm going to take everything from you. I want to be you specifically. So when he arrives, he should, because he does borrow Richard's clothes, but it's never enough to feel like, oh, he's starting to become him. It's never like the single white female style of like, oh, he's dressing exactly like me now. Like, it never goes that far. He borrows his clothes because he has no clothes.
He wants his son and his money to buy and then buy a completely different house.
I feel like even the son thing he's sort of indifferent to. It's just because it's what Connie wants, and it's easier than like getting her pregnant and having to deal with a baby. They want a child that's already sort of almost through it like into puberty, so they don't have to do too much work.
It's housebroken.
Yes, I think that's kind of the big thing. It's like, we want a kid, but we don't want to do the work, so we'll just steal this one.
Like he seems to like the kid, but also he's very willing to threaten to kill the kid.
Yes, they have no problem with potentially killing all of them if they don't get their way.
Yeah, like they threaten this, like they have gone out of their way to make sure that Connie considers Alex her child at this point. However, both of them are very willing to say, "I will slit his throat ear to ear."
This
all of a sudden.
Yeah, this is when Catherine's making the noise. This is when Connie goes down and she rips the power cable from a lamp and cuts it apart, and starts ranting about how Alex and Richard were just given to Catherine and she doesn't deserve them. And so she pulls the cables apart and starts like thinking about giving Catherine electroshock therapy on the side of her head. And Harry kind of steps in and stops her from doing that.
And she's so upset at this girl Chad for having it so easy.
And the next morning, Connie's trying to make muffins, and Harry pretends to talk to Catherine and Richard on the phone. He won't let Alex talk to them. And Connie's making chocolate chip muffins. And Alex is like, well, I like the blueberry ones that my mom makes. And she gets pissed off. And she's like, well, I'm making chocolate. And then she goes into the oven, and the first batch that she's made are completely burned to a crisp.
Because if you're crazy, you can't make muffins. It takes a light touch. It involves possibly the easiest fucking thing to bake.
But yeah, she is so angry. She's angry at Alex. She's angry at the muffins. Like, she just is like, as the movie goes on, she starts to like wear down in her sort of grip on sanity. Which is
because at this, it would make sense if their plan was falling apart and she was losing her grip on sanity. Everything's working and she's losing her mind.
Yeah, it's just turning out to be not what she was anticipating. It's not what she wanted, basically.
It's like when you adopt a pet and it claws the couch. You're like, I don't want a pet that does that. And you're like, and they need someone to tell you, like, hey, that's what pets do. So go buy a toy instead.
So I think around this point, Harry makes a resignation letter for Richard at his company, so he can like get out of it and they can go wherever they want. And this is when they do the whole bank errand, and he basically says, "Do this with me, or I'm going to kill Richard and Alex."
And she reacts in such a way that that boy, oh boy, is she ever cross with him? Like, there's no fear in her eyes. There's no panic. There's no fury. No, it's just, I am so pissed at you right now. And she goes, and it's this whole thing where they spend this entire scene. They go through the whole bank, 2 tellers, a manager behind a desk. It goes on, and you keep thinking, is she going to find a way to do a secret note to this person to let them know or say something, make a scene. She keeps saying like, "You're not going to get away with this, in earshot of everybody," but they act like it's not. And no, nothing comes of this.
Yeah, like, I mean, I get like her not wanting to potentially put her husband and son in danger, so she doesn't want to do too much, but she does all of these things. Like, she sets up all of these things that it feels like, oh, is someone at the bank going to help her? Like,
she's signing her name in such a way that it's a secret message if they read it upside down or something.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like, but it was like, no, she just signed it weird. So then the bank manager has to approve, and then he's like, oh yeah, it's fine. Here's all your money.
Yeah, it was just padding the runtime, and it was just like, we're seeing every stage of the bank, and I'm so glad that it's no longer the 90s and I'd never have to go into the fucking bank for anything.
Well, they needed to get her out of the house for a certain period of time so that Marcy could show up, because she hasn't heard from them in a day or two.
I forgot Marcy was a character in this movie.
Yeah, and doesn't know what's going on, so she goes in and is trying to figure out what's going on. Marcy is kind of wandering around the house. Connie has sent Alex outside to play with his robots because she needs to make a phone call because she saw Marcy showing up outside. And while Alex is outside, Marcy comes into the house, kind of wanders around, sees Alex outside, and as she's about to go out, Connie runs into the room and just stabs her right in the stomach.
And she's dead.
One stab wound. She is dead.
One stab wound, like, in the spot where you would actually die incredibly slowly and painfully. But this kills off Bing Crosby's daughter.
Yes. And Connie kind of drags Marcy away as Alex comes in, tries to hide the body. And this is when she kind of starts to get angry with Alex, because he's like, hey, did you knock over that vase, that plant? Mom's gonna be mad. And she's like, you have to start obeying me. I'm in charge here. And she like runs him upstairs, and then we find out later that she has tied him to the bed.
Yeah, they were just trying to make sure, like, at this point they knew what they're gonna do to her, and they're like, oh, you think she cares about the kid and you're going to have some sympathy for her clearly mistreatment at the hands of doctors and her mental trauma. And like, she honestly seems to have a connection with this kid. So let's make sure you think that we tell you specifically she doesn't give a shit about this kid. And if he doesn't listen to her, she'll kill her.
Yeah.
Kill him.
So like, they get back to the house, Catherine and Harry, and Catherine and Connie get into an argument, and they keep Harry's trying to separate them. Catherine eventually sees Marcy's dead body, and she kind of freaks out and tries to attack Connie. They kind of go back and forth. She eventually gets a fireplace poker, which she knocks Harry over the couch and is able to run upstairs and untie Alex and help him get out and, go call the police. Harry runs off to try to find Alex while Connie and Catherine fight. And they have a big fight throughout the house. At this point, Richard, I think, is finally free of his ropes. I mean, I guess Harry is a very good knotsman, because it took Richard like 2 days to get out of those ropes.
And he just must smell so much of just feces.
Yeah, he barfed up all the orange crush that he had drank the day before.
I mean, it just comes for free. When you've created a cultural icon like Crush the Cat, I mean, you got a lifetime supply. You just like that bosom just is endless.
that fountain is overflowing. So like, I think is this when Alex goes to the neighbor's house that he fucked with earlier, and that no one will answer, so he throws a plant through the window to alert the police.
I mean, that's the only way it would work.
And they're continuing to fight in the house. Connie grabs the blowtorch in the studio.
I didn't see this coming.
I didn't either. And tries to burn Catherine, but Catherine knocks a shelf onto her, and the blowtorch falls down and catches Connie on fire.
On fire. And I thought, oh, is she going to get like burnt a little bit? And then we cut to Harry outside looking into the house, and we see a completely engulfed in flames Connie running around screaming.
This is like a vampire got hit with sunlight and has burst into flames. Like, this is insanity.
She's doing a full dance on fire.
She's doing the fire stuntman dance.
It is they take this character and light her on fire. She dies. The only thing that'd be worse if she died kind of on fire and kind of being torn apart by wolves.
It's an awful way to go, and I don't totally think her character deserved it. It's pretty rotten.
They tried to do it by having her directly kill Marcy, who we don't know, and by her tying up the kid, so we think, oh, she doesn't actually care. But it's so cruel. Like, I know it's cool to do this fire stunt, but like, I'm an adult. That's cruel. That's just mean. Like, no one does. Very few.
And Harry is equally bad, and he doesn't get the same. He doesn't get the same ending.
No, he gets shoveled. He gets Home Alone. He gets smacked with a shovel.
I mean, her getting hit with the shelf did kind of remind me of Home Alone 2 when the shelf falls on Marv and all the paint hits him. So it's very Home Alone-y at the end here.
So what's worse? The being shocked into a skeleton in Home Alone or caught on fire? That skeleton scene is so funny. It's so funny. He screams louder the second time they come back and he's a skeleton.
Yeah, so like Harry comes up and he sees her burning alive and he's freaking out and screaming. And Richard
he's like, oh no, Connie, no. Like, yeah, no, that is sad. You did love her, and she's now completely on fire.
He does make no effort to run inside and put her out, though.
It's like, what would he do? He's just a Southern boy. He don't know no better.
I don't know. Mama said I can't touch that hot stuff. I'll get hurt.
He says, ta, that's hot. Don't touch.
So Richard shows up finally. He broke out of the boat, thankfully, and he has a shovel. And Harry turns and sees him and he runs for him, but Harry hits him with the shovel and knocks him out. I thought he had like decapitated him or something at this point, but no, he just knocked him out. And Richard and Catherine see each other, and Catherine comes over and they hug while Connie is burning alive inside their house.
There's only one thing for them to do that to really get back at Connie if we're daring to have sex in their master bedroom, and that is to have sex on top of her ashes.
They definitely do that, I'm sure. And Alex he stops the cops and he brings them over. And then the last shot of the movie is Harry getting loaded into an ambulance. It's very reminiscent of the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Cliff is getting loaded into an ambulance at the end. And Harry has the last line of the movie, which is, y'all keep in touch now, you hear? And it's like,
sequel.
What?
Why would you set up a sequel?
I don't know. It's very bizarre that they set up, like, I don't know what they're trying to say. I don't know if they're saying, oh, well, this guy will be back to do it again, or, oh, he'll go back into an institution for 10 years and then, he'll get better this time.
I don't know what they're trying to say. I don't know why they did this. Other than they thought, like, Harry's the most interesting character. He should close the movie.
Well, that is true.
Can you imagine being the police and, like, walking up to this rich white guy's house and, like, man, old man crushed the cat's house. What's going? There's a dead woman who caught on fire in his house.
Yeah, like, I mean, this guy throws some wild parties.
He's got all that crush the cat money. I heard he's paid to have his head cryogenically frozen after he's died, so he can party harder in the future.
Yeah. So like that's where the movie ends. They walk off together back into their home, which definitely smells like burning flesh and hair.
They're not
now.
going in the house. They're going to the police station. They're not going back into the house like problem solved. They're a person burned alive in our kitchen. The house, you have to move. You have to move.
Yes, absolutely. You have to move. They get to buy the house that that Harry and Connie are trying to buy in Portland.
They have to move to a street he'll never figure out the address of because it has 2 words. And because if they're there, she caught a fire in the kitchen, but she went and danced in the living room, which I believe is carpeted. And you're not getting the smell of burnt human out of the carpet. Some of her are probably in the carpet. They didn't have Dysons back then. She's in there.
No, they just you gotta tear that whole house down and start from scratch, basically.
Start from scratch. The old haunted Crush the Cat manor. It's you gotta get out of there.
But I think that is gonna do it for Distant Cousins.
100 episodes in.
More than 100 episodes, 100 movies.
No, 100 episodes. And I feel better about my life if I say it that way.
But yeah, that is our 100th film. We have done it. We have hit a milestone for our show. It's very exciting. And it's been a fun run. And we have some fun stuff in store for the rest of this year. It's going to be a little bit different from what we normally do around here. And I don't want to say any more than that. All will be revealed and explained on next week's mini episode. So if you're curious where we're going after movie 100, you're going to have to join us next week. I'll give you a little hint, though. We're going to be looking backwards. That's all I'll say for now. But join us next week for the mini episode where we explain all of what that means. But until then, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
And we predict you'll join us.
Now come get a sip.
That's our filthiest character, right?
Oh, by far. Did you hear what we talked about? My God, I feel bad that the rest of my family had to hear this through the walls.
If you like the show, subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter and Instagram at predictocast, and you can find our entire back catalog at predictocast.com. Our theme music is by Kyle Sledge. Find more of his work at soundcloud.com/geistmusic. To get monthly bonus content, sign up at patreon.com/predictocast. As always, thanks for listening.